This is Darren Marchant with American Nomad News. And I want to share something with you that occurred to me when I was putting something into the comments section of an animator's react thing on YouTube. And so I copied it and pasted it because it was kind of a hot off the brainstem thing, and I rewrote it on paper because I don't have any ability to print, and I want to read it to you mostly as I spoke it into the text recognition thing, because I think it's interesting. It's an interesting idea. Okay, so here we go. So I study space and have all of my life. And there's this proposal put out by NASA a long time ago where an astronaut would be wearing a spacesuit and would, in an emergency, would back into a kind of clamshell thing with a rocket on the chest. Rocket, right here, right here. I remember the pictures. I can't find them anymore, but I remember the pictures. And it was kind of a bid for proposal, they call it. It was really interesting. And several different companies came out with, their versions of it. One was a 3-man thing, but most of them were 1 man only at a time, individual. And the setup was an emergency escape system. The idea was that the rocket on the chest was also part of a couple of other smaller systems, propulsion systems. And what would happen is the space station is going kablooey, right? It's an emergency. You have to leave the space station right away. There's, orbital debris gonna hit. You got to get out. The place is about to blow up from a leak. It's on fire. Something's wrong. You got to leave, right? Okay. I'm ad-libbing a little into this from my memories of this thing, and then I'm reading the pieces, so I keep all this in order. So forgive me for not just, coming right off with it. Built into the clamshell backpack. When you were ejected from the space station wearing this thing, it would automatically, using the small propulsion system, orient you facing away from the direct line of re-entry. Now, the idea was that a inflatable mold, think the top of a mushroom, like mushroom cap type shape, would inflate from the backpack out, and it would be curved, right? It would be curved so that you were kind of laying in this shell, and it would come into the atmosphere like this, and you would be laying, if I can get this thing to set there, you would be laying right here in this area, and it would come into the atmosphere like this. And this is the ablative shield. The reentry shock of the gases would hit this and heat up, just like other reentry stuff hits and heats up. And what would happen is, I'm getting ahead of myself. So let me read this text as it goes so I get everything in the right order here. And at the point where you're oriented correctly, right? You come off the space station and you might be facing this way, right? As that ablative shield is fitting in. So you've got a couple of little directional rockets that turn you around, right? Until you're facing whatever the right entry level is. Okay? You might say my head's the earth, right? You're the tip of my finger, and you coming around, and you need to be just on the right line so that you re-enter at the right angle. Not too low of an angle, not too steep of an angle. Right? This bad, right? Another is if it's too shallow, it'd skip off like a pond on a stone. So you have to enter at just this right reentry vector as you come around the globe, right? So this thing would orient you first, and then the rocket on your chest, right? Remember, this is a clamshell, fits over your spacesuit. And the rocket on the chest would ignite and stay on the right amount of time, because there'd be a computer in the system that would know where you are in relation to the Earth, what your orbit is and everything, and it would adjust, and it would push you out of the orbit you're in and into a declining orbit. It's just the right downward arrangement. So you'd hit that atmosphere and start to aerobrake. You're aerobraking like this, right? Okay. Put you on a re-entry vector. That wasn't the end of it. Now, once this bag fills up with that material, this mold fills up with this material, it would harden. And as it came into the atmosphere, it's an ablative material. That means that as it got hot, the outer surface would turn into these little pills that are super hot. They'd take that and they'd break off and they'd fly away. And that would take the heat with it. It wouldn't be able to transmit the heat deeper into the ablative material. There's no conduction or not much, because it's taking it away. And as the next material right behind that starts to heat up, it'd do the same thing. It'd pill up, it'd kind of expand and pill up, and then it would take it away. And this is one of the ways that they do re-entry even now. Okay, so hopefully it was hard by the time you hit the atmosphere, right? Now, when you're done with that procedure, there'd be some explosive bolts, or you'd have some sort of way that ablative shield would pop off and fly away, because you can't have that when the parachute goes off. It's not going to work, right? And you would parachute to the surface of the Earth. Now, whether it was over ocean or land, you don't know, right? This is an emergency, and you don't, that when you're orbiting the Earth in a space station or something, you're going around the Earth very fast. And if you are, oh my God, I gotta eject, and you eject, you don't know which part of the Earth you're over. Your little computer in your backpack might tell you at the last minute, but that's what you get. As soon as you know where you're going to land, you're already in the procedure, and that's it. Okay? And so you don't know whether you're landing over the Indian Ocean, the Atlantic, the Pacific, Kansas, Russia. You don't know. But you're back to Earth. Okay. I picture a future version of this where you're in the space station and you're in your spacesuit, but you're also wearing a kind of spacesuit that you can eject the spacesuit itself. You can get out of the spacesuit. And underneath is a wingsuit with the parachute. Okay, so you eject out of the International Space Station, and you're riding this thing down like you're sitting on your back on a surfboard. You're just coming down, right? And at a certain point, you get past the point where it's going to burn up anymore, and it's safe to do it. Maybe there's an alarm going bleepity bleep bleep bleep. You need to, or it just does it automatically. Pop. And out you come with the wingsuit. And then you can steer, right? So let's say that you're over Arizona, and you're uncontrolled, right? You're just coming down in a straight round parachute. You have no control over it, right? Not even the rectangular ones that you can steer a little bit. And you're right over the Grand Canyon. That is not the place you want to be. If you're in a wingsuit, you can steer. You're trained to do this, right? You've done some wingsuit drops. And you're heading down and you see that your straight up vector is going to put you right down in them cliffs and the canyons and the mess. You can turn out over the flatland and land out in open, clear desert. Right? You can get down fairly low to about the lowest that you want to let go of that parachute, and then pop out with one of them rectangular parachutes and steer your way down. Very controlled landing. A lot safer. Wouldn't that be an interesting idea? Please comment in the sections. I really want to know what people think of this idea. I want to know their questions. I want to know what you think of the technology and the objections you have to how it might be done. Thank you. This is Darren Marchant with American Nomad News, with a parachute from low Earth orbit concept.